Welcome to the Business Blox podcast. I'm Chris Manser.
And I'm Dale, and we're back again, Chris.
Yes, and you're not locked down at the moment. Is your postcode being selected for special restrictions?
No, but it is sort of moving around the west, which is where I'm sort of centralised. It's been an interesting few days. They've sort of dipped back with the lockdowns. They're taking a lot of a centralised approach. They said if this doesn't work, they will go out to full state lockdowns again, which is a bit scary. But at the moment, I can move around, but it's weird. I don't know what happens if I drive through a town that has that sort of area. I don't know what's happening.
Okay.
So
Depends
we might,
on your excuse for the reason
yeah,
you're going there.
I might end up having to drive through a roadblock somewhere.
As long as you're doing
Gun it through, mate.
As long as you've got the excuse, I don't think you'll have any issues. I have a couple of friends that actually have a funeral coming up in the next few days, and they're wary about going because they're meant to be restricted. I don't know if they'll be able to get to the funeral. And I sort of thought if you're going, go along and go straight back.
Is it in the area?
No. So it's outside, but
you'll be fine. You just say you're going to the shops.
Exactly. And my understanding is if you're coming back from a funeral and the police pull you over and you show them, I've just been at a funeral, here is the program from the funeral, they're not going to fine you. Well, technically not the four things you can actually do. So work, school, food and exercise. That's it, mate. It is very clear. Hopefully common sense prevails and it's a warning, but we'll see what happens with that. But the government has come out to support restrictions, more money.
Yeah, actually, state governments, which is good, is it? So more money, $5,000 if you're in an area that's been affected by the additional lockdown. You can receive this money if you've received the previous $10,000 state grant. Normal requirements have to employ, I think it's turnover or wages under 3 million, a few other things. But it's a bit more money. I'm assuming they're going to go by where your registered address is. So you can't just type in any address. So questionable about whether it's going to be the same one as ASIC or with the tax office. If I was a betting man, I would probably say the tax office is where they're going to go because it's more inclusive, so sole traders can use it and that sort of thing. Because some people may not have updated their registered addresses with ASIC, meaning that they may have a different address as they do to their actual business address. But interesting, what if you've moved in the past year and you haven't updated your address with the tax office? These are the details that we've got to work through. It was only announced today, I think it was. Lockdowns were today. So the credits were announced today. We'll be working through things and see where we go. But another 5,000 for another 4-week lockdown. It's still tough times for business.
Yeah, I think they're taken from the perspective of if you continue with your JobKeeper, that keeps your wages going, and then this $5,000's probably you've delayed your rent if that's one of the cases, or this will help support your other outgoings during that time. At least bring a little bit back in. It's not a lot. The biggest thing I noticed was High Point is going to be shut down. So you've got High Point, you've got Water Garden Shopping Centre. $5,000 isn't going to pay a week's rent there. So they will be the interesting effects of all of this. How High Point copes with it. Businesses that have just started to come out of a struggling past 3 months, just starting to get people out again, and now boom, at least another month off the table. That's where it starts to get worrying. If they expand it, or if they increase the hours, 5,000 won't help. And how is JobKeeper going to continue? Because I got a mate that's working in Oakley, and he can't get his casuals to come back in because they're earning more on earning more on JobKeeper than actually working.
Yeah. So what was the one with the job support program where you get to go home, you get the extra money? So the Prime Minister was talking about, there was discussion about whether they should be increasing the dole, is what we call it, or the job seeker. Yeah. But what he was saying, which I don't know how true is because of the level of the job seeker today, they're finding it hard to get people to move back into the workforce, and they're preferring to stay home because it's, if you've gone from $500 a fortnight to $1,000, you don't really, although you're not on a lot of money, it puts less of an incentive for people to go away. So yeah, it's hard. I think we've had issues with people who have been reporting a lot of sick days because they feel that this is a payment to them and not to the business, so that they need, they should be able to stay home and still collect the money. It's created, a little bit of friction between employers and employees. Most people have been very good, and most of the employees have been very understanding. But it's very trying times. I hope it goes away. I hope we can get it under control, and then we're going to find it hard enough to start to run businesses in these new conditions. If this thing drags on for another year or 6 months or 3 months, I start to worry about what the damage is going to be, because Sea Folly, a swimwear brand, closed up. Circus du Soleil filed for bankruptcy today or yesterday. So you were seeing some big companies that are really starting to take a hit. And if we start to see these localized pockets, I really think people are just going to wind up and then consider whether they should start again.
Yeah. The business side of things is certainly cafe down the road just opening. Now they're in Ascot Vale. They're locked back down. It's quite amazing what's going on right now. And the quicker they can sort it out to a consistent level, we can't keep opening and shutting and changing every 5. This is not sustainable for anyone. As it was, the 50% was not sustainable.
No, but another month for businesses at the end of it. I think people were sort of planning just to get through, and now they've been slugged with another month. I think they're going to throw the keys in the door. I really do. Because it'd be devastating for them.
Yeah, certainly. Well, I thought today we could sort of just break down a little bit about ourselves and talk a little bit about tax for you and Dale and Chris, and how we came about to where you are. How long's tax? I've been at tax for you, I think, close to 4 years now, 4.5 years.
Oh my God!
And
how you lasted that long?
How long's tax for you been in business? 10 years? When did you start?
10 years. Yeah, we did 10 years. I think it was the start of this year. No, maybe the start of last year. I think it's over 10 years. I know that much. So started it 10 years ago. It was just, I was umming and ahhing. I think I was looking to go work in England at the time. So that was the time of the GFC. And then we were going to up the family and go work for an accounting firm over in England for a few years and just spend some time abroad. That fell through, and then I said, well, I'm not going back to work in the city. So I'd spent 10 years before that working for just larger firms around town, just sort of handling, average clients. You'd sort of, at the lower end, were about 2 million. At the top end, were about 20 to 30 million, and that at that time it was a lot of money. The equivalent now is probably, I'd say, 70 million turnover. They were big businesses. It was a lot of meetings about meetings. But it did give me a good insight into just how accountants work at that level, and the level of detail that they can really put into things to get a different result. I know a lot of people like the cheaper no frills accountants, but to do something properly, you need to put time into researching all the topics around about a decision that you make, plus also documenting that, plus also writing checklists. So the work paper file that you do for a large firm where you've got those good chargeables, and I think I was about 300 an hour back then. But you really put the time into sort of building up a full assessment of every year, a full assessment of every decision that you make, and everything then gets the backing of the tax advisory department. I enjoyed that. It gave me a very good grounding in a lot of areas. I chewed the ear off the tax advisory department with a lot of stupid questions where they didn't really want to talk to me much anymore. But I got my bones in there. I learnt what I needed to learn. I dealt with a lot of large individuals. We dealt with, who was the guy who bought the plane? Who was the Essendon president?
Recently, would not know.
Anyway, so large, major corporations. A lot of people, we were dealing with people buying planes, refinancing boats, and it was really a good grounding. And then I left out and started Tax for You, and haven't looked back since.
So why the shift to then more grassroots, smaller businesses? Okay.
6-minute chargeables, and you've got to get your numbers, and there is no, I was there till probably 9 o'clock at night, a lot of nights, and I've got 2 kids. It wasn't something that I wanted to continue for a long time. It was good for the experience, but I did get burnt out. So I'd leave 7:30, 8 o'clock to go to work and get home at 9 o'clock, and that was all day, every day. There were good times. We sort of ran around the town, drinks at these bars, that bars, but you sort of reach a point where that gets too draining, and it doesn't sort of, it doesn't give you. And that's the other thing. When you start off at a large firm, you start off with a bunch of people who are sort of all looking to move up. So you work with a team of maybe, 30 or 40 people that are all at your level. Then as you go up and up, the tower gets smaller and it gets more competitive. Then there's the manager jobs, and then you're down to sort of competing for that manager job. And yeah, it wasn't for me. I'm not a competitive person in that sense. I always liked my work to show who I was and get my credits on that, and it was more politics. And yeah, I'm not down for politics.
Yeah.
Friendships,
relationships. Oh
well. More political in games, which I was. It was when you get to the these were big companies, and it was manoeuvres and games, and yeah. Anyway, what about yourself?
That's totally the opposite with Tax for You these days. You're working with a different type of customer.
And
always
the reason
why
and that's probably the reason why we're moving away in the way that we bill as well, because I couldn't service a client properly. Like if I wanted to give them the attention that they needed, the minimum bill would be $2,000 to $3,000, and that was just for a basic bit of advice. So it was working out a way where I could feel like I'm getting what I deserve out of this, and also give the clients what they deserve. Because if I don't feel like I'm getting everything I can, I don't have the attention that I should be putting on things. But anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Well, my background is a lot different to that. So what, I've been Tax for You 4 years. So straight out of graduate accountant, straight into a baby formula manufacturer. So we would produce a powder product, actually in Altona. So manufacturing in Australia, it's not too common. But we produced the baby formula fatty acid that would be included in the ingredient included in baby formula that would sell throughout China and Asia. ASX-listed company and a small team. I think we were turning 50 million a year, and I was there for just over 3 years, and it sort of got to the point where once you've done a few monthly reports and a few annual reports, it's the same thing each year. And a few of the guys that I had started with, the CFO and a few others had moved on. So I was probably at the stage where it was time to look for something different. And that's when I thought it was a good idea to get a scholarship to go play American football in America and go back to college.
And what were we playing in that team?
As a punter, which is a very, very common thing. Back in 2015, it wasn't what it is today. Dustin Fletcher's son, he's just gone over there to play at college over choosing AFL, and a lot of other AFL players, Sam Lloyd from Richmond and Sipos from St Kilda, have also cut their careers short to go playing in America. So I went over there to play in America, and that's pretty much when we sort of started to get together as well. I needed some side work to do. You had too much work, and
when it was?
Yeah, that was...
okay.
So I stayed in America for a couple of years, playing football and doing some side accounting. The powers of cloud accounting and Xero.
Yeah, it's a weird world now.
That I can be in a small town in Arkansas in the south of America, working easily on a laptop is quite amazing. I think from there you've seen over the last 3 or 4 years how we've just grown things at Tax for You.
NFL not calling? They didn't make the call?
No, they didn't make the call, so I had to continue as...
Yeah, so that's when you sort of switched. So it was half tax, and then it was half footy, and then you thought, less footy, more tax.
Well, with the college system, there's no age requirement. So I had 2 years of eligibility based on my studies back in Australia, but I actually started playing as a 26-year-old, which was... I think I was 2 years or 3 years older than everyone else on the team. So it was a quite unique experience. But I absolutely loved it. And just amazed that I actually got to the point where I could get a scholarship and then change a career. And then, it's been quite a whirlwind the last 3 or 4 years.
I think that's the power of an accounting degree. It is a worldwide degree. And accounting doesn't change no matter where you go in the world.
Yeah, exactly.
So, it's a great place to be. And here you are back at Tax for You, the hub of accounting in Victoria.
And learning a whole new style of accounting. Being an accountant for one business compared to now, we have just under 50 small businesses that we look after. It's a whole different set of problems and a whole set of different requirements.
It's never the same any day, is it?
No, and I feel like I'm involved in the business. I just want them all to be super successful, and it's sort of anything that we can do to make that happen. It really feels like we're part of the whole process.
I think that has organically grown, I would say, in the last, 3 years, as we review things and review where we're going, we've always looked back and said, okay, what have we done right? What have we done wrong? And we've always fell back into this advisory sort of role. And that's sort of why I think we've moved towards our fixed billing fees, because it does allow us to work in that role where people can call up, ask a question, we can fix a problem, and then we don't have that issue of, here's a $300 bill for a 2-hour conversation. It's a different it's a different way of doing it, but I think it's something that we've grown with, and we spend a lot of time trying to develop our business. I think I would say that half of our conversations are probably based around, what are we doing right? What are we doing wrong? Where we should be heading? I think it's a different way of looking at it, but it's a deliberate way of doing it, because I wanted to see how advanced you can get by spending a huge chunk of time, growing the business. As we say to everyone, don't spend time in the business, spend it growing the business. And have you think it's paid off? Do you think we're getting places with it?
Well, yeah, definitely we are. As I'm someone that feel like the growth is never enough, but we've consistently grown year on year for the last 3 or 4 years. And I think you start to get to a point like this year, 2021, starting off like a couple of goals. We're planning to bring on at least one, if not a couple of 2 part-timers across the year. Continue to move all our business customers across to that monthly packages, just to break down the fear of the conversation, the fear of emailing the accountant and not expecting a reply that isn't going to charge you money, or the reply is going to take weeks because they just are not prioritizing you. And I think by what we've done in the last year, I think in particular, is our response times to customer questions has dramatically reduced, because there's no worry about, do we need to bill this customer? Are they going to be expecting a bill? How much work do we need to do? We've already had the discussion at the beginning of the year.
Yeah. Has your opinion of what accounting is changed since your first job?
Yeah, well, it's more about sort of management of a business more than just accounting. I think it's not as much at that higher level when you're reporting to a board. You've got to come up with reports and financials from a historical point of view, and more so when you're on the cloud, it's more agile, and you can look at what happened last week or 2 weeks ago, or what's coming up for the next month, and that's where the difference is. In the smaller places, you can really focus and make changes rapidly. Because go ahead.
It's changing well. It's been amazing. Where I think where I was heading 5 years ago, I wouldn't have dreamed of where I am today. It's been that much of a change.
Yeah, I'm sure I hope that's what our customers sort of see as well.
Yeah, I think so. And over the next few years, that's going to continue, because it's an ever evolving field at the moment. So, we've got to continue to talk to the customers. We've got to continue to talk to them about what they're doing, and it's a two-way communication. So they tell us, we hear, wow, okay, this guy's looking into this side of things, and we can then start to roll that across to everyone else. So, if you got 50 plus businesses all sort of trying to find a little bit of an edge, all sort of pushing forward, it's this massive feed of information that we keep getting about how businesses can work and how businesses do work, and also, what people do wrong and how to fix those problems. And
you're getting a real-time look as well. If your fingers in a lot of businesses, you were saying which areas are doing well, which industries are blowing up after COVID, which ones are really struggling, and you can pass all that information on. So that's probably one thing we can look to do more of.
I think so, yeah. That's probably a decent thing. I think we have a little bit with the podcast. That's sort of an area that we've got into. I think we should. I think we could probably address issues that people are dealing with and pass them on.
Yeah, exactly. Well, today's episode 15. I reckon another goal, we're sitting here 2021 doing episode 65. Close to 65 would be a nice achievement. And it's amazing that the new camera that looks amazing, Dale is for those watching on YouTube,
and the lighting too,
has updated his camera, and the next is just to smooth out the microphone, and we're big time.
Yeah, well, I remember when we were struggling to get our audio podcast together. I mean, and then once we made that shift to video, it just flows a lot more easier. So we are progressing. We're progressing with everything that we do. We don't stay stagnant with anything that we do, and that's how we try and help everyone as well.
Yeah, for sure. Well, anything else you want to add? We're sort of getting up to half an hour now.
That's probably about it. End of financial year. Oh, it's New Year's Eve. I didn't even notice. So Happy New Year, everyone. So everything will.
So this
everything
podcast
will
be
over.
released on Thursday. So it'll be the second year.
Happy New Year.
We're recording New Year's Eve, not out celebrating.
It's been so hectic this year that I haven't even bothered about celebrating New Year's Eve, which is a horrendous accounting thing to do. But yeah, it's just been crazy this year. I hope everyone is doing well. I hope the COVID blows away in the hot weather, as Donald told us, and then we just can get back to business. With the podcast, I think we will try and look to bring things back to a more simpler start, and then build up a bunch of base information, and then hopefully look to extend on that further.
Excellent. I'll speak to you next week.
All right, mate.
Catch you
Have
later.
a good one.
See ya.
Look after yourself. See you, mate.